Okay, Year 11, welcome to your video tutorial today on data structures. So where are we getting this from in the syllabus? Well, it's the same dot point that we've been working on, or massive dot point that we've been working on for the last few lessons, and it's data types. Today we're going to particularly look at data structures, including one-dimensional arrays and what a record or an array of records is called. So just a bit of a recap from last lesson. You might remember that last lesson we were looking at variables. Now, a variable is a data structure which allows you to save a value in your program. Okay, now that value can have any number of data types. A reminder again of our data types, that variable could be a string, that's alphanumeric characters. That variable could be an integer, that's whole numbers. That variable could be a real or a floating point, which is a decimal, or that variable could be a Boolean. Now, that's all well and good if I want to store one valuable, that was good, if I want to store one value in that variable. But what if one value is not enough? Say, for example, I had a system that was looking at, class lists. And I have a whole lot of strings, everyone's first name, in a class. How could I hold a list of items that are related to one another, like a list of names? Well, I do so in something called a one-dimensional array. A one-dimensional array or a single-dimensional array is a data structure that consists of a collection of values of the same data type. So, like a list of names like we were speaking about. That will be a perfect example. However, variables are easy. There's only one value in them. How would I reference maybe, say, here's an example of a list, names. Giant flock of birds outside. Sorry, I hope you heard that. Otherwise, that would be a really odd comment. Say I have an array called names. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values in this array. How would I reference Larry here in the middle? Well, how I do that in an array is by an index. So similar to a book index, different values in the array are referenced by the position that they are within the list. So to reference Bob, we would first reference the array name, and so here it's names, brackets 1, that would be Bob. To reference Kate, so Kate down here, would call her by her index, so it'd be again the name of the array, names, brackets 3 for Kate. So it's pretty straightforward. I can have more than one value, but they have to be of the same data type, and I reference them based on this thing called their index. So that's all well and good, but what happens if for some reason I had different values and they're not the same data type? Well, that's when an array of records comes into play. An array of records is something that contains data items that are related but not necessarily the same data type. So let's work on that student data idea. Instead of just having first names, what happens if I had a system that collected whole lots of information from students? So, you can imagine your student's online account. I don't know if any of you guys have logged on to that, but if you have, they have a whole record that's just related to you, so all has to be grouped together, but has different data types. That might be your NESA number, your first name, your last name, your date of birth, how many units you are enrolled in. So that's a bit more complicated because, as you can tell, this one would be an integer, that one would be a string, that one would be a string, this would probably be an integer, that'd be an integer again. There's so many different data types there. How do I do it? Well, it's kind of similar to a one-dimensional or single-dimensional array, but it's just changed ever so slightly. So the same concept of an index is involved. But say I wanted to reference, the first name of the 5th student in the list. I would again use the name of the record. So in this case, my record was called students. I'd then, like I did before, reference, brackets 5. So exactly the same as what I was doing over here, that's the same so far. But however, because I have different fields of different data types, I then, to be able to pull out that one piece of information, have to go dot with whatever field I'm after. So if I was after the, the fifth record, the first name in the fifth record, I would go students, that's my array of records, brackets index, dot, the field that I'm after. And that's it, guys. That's two different data structures that exist on top of variables that will allow me to hold multiple pieces of data in the one structure.